I want to talk about punishment. Punishment. Over the last few weeks, I've been experiencing an intense purging, release, or clearing of guilt. I'm sure, like many of you, there is a sense of uncertainty. You might be feeling it, a frustration in the form of debt. And everything that comes with that pressure, that identity of being good, being a good citizen, paying your bills, paying your taxes, and what it means to not do those things, what it means about you. And I've been feeling a lot of the latter part of experimenting with not playing that game. And it's been interesting. It's been interesting experimenting with how much surrender has to do with also this idea of working to make a living or working to pay back a debt. And that pressure, that social integrity of honoring your commitments, your agreements to pay. And not doing that, but not out of a conscious choice to break integrity, but for a greater experiment of surrender. What is surrender when it comes to this idea of being this person, this person that is paying to live, but not live in a sense of surviving, but live in a sense of doing what you're told you gotta do. this idea of surrendering to something higher that puts into question a lot of the human ideals that are so ingrained in our culture. And so this guilt, debt is guilt. In the sense that debt in the form of what you can't pay back when you agreed to pay it back. And so this is where punishment, guilt really blur. And it's interesting because the exchange is not one-to-one in the moment, but the exchange is projected into the future, which creates this pressure to pay it back. And if you don't pay it back, then there's penalties. And if you don't care about the penalties, there's an escalation of perceived punishment. And that punishment is somehow just to change action, behavior, responsibility, identity of how good or bad you are compared to a quote-unquote good citizen. And I've been feeling this because I've got a bunch of debt. And I see on multiple levels, because there are different dimensions at play when we talk about our soul's themes and our soul's lessons and our soul's journey and our soul's learning. And when it comes to all of that stuff, to see from a higher perspective that my unconscious or conscious accrual of all that debt and all that pressure and failure and reminders of past mistakes there's a science or a research that I've known about, but have had difficulty expressing because it does rebel or second guess the power structures of control that have been conditioned into us to be necessities and consistencies. Structures of control that aren't necessarily physical. Symbols like, government, conspiracy, mind control, suppression, the money system, the conflict, the uncertainty, the confidence. Like, when we talk about what debt is actually connected to, we can see that there is a mechanism of control that keeps people in the burdens and the inefficiencies and the negativities of time, of having this past decision, whether it was good or bad, in love, in fear, conscious, unconscious. There's this sense of, again, future imminence, future threat. So we have the coupled possibility of past regret with the perceived future of survival, threat, emergency playing on our psyche with debt. And the changing of your own personality, your growth, your shifts of insights and versions of yourself and evolution. And we see that when you choose not to play that game, as in the research that I'm doing, whether I like it or not, because I've tried to fight against it, and it's not about trying to get the debt cleared in instant gratification, because there is something to play with when you surrender the need to control what is preferred and not preferred in your reality. So, in this experiment, there is a perceived financial limitation because what I'm researching is the effects of debt in the terms of guilt, punishment, of the collective, generational, lineage, ancestral patterns of this negative, guilt, fearful based look at life. That instead of fighting it, I'm researching it. And not, and the beyond my ability to try to fight or change against this. There is something of a breakthrough solution that has come from doing this work, from doing this research in the darkness of our human psyche. Perhaps work that no one else wants to do, but seems the most selfless, larger than life thing that I can do. And sometimes I don't know why. Because it's teaching me so much to not have everything that I want. There is a pain in that. There is a perceived punishment about that. But in allowing this guilt to be witnessed for the first time, to see this shade of suffering and choose not to suffer, but to laugh in the face of the seriousness of the Matrix's game. Everything changes with self-awareness. Welcome to the new paradigm, right?